Yeah, this one has that gold color on it. I kind of like the way the gold came out. And it was more of a playing homage to the Zotac 1050 Ti's. That's what's in here. There's 13 of them. These do not have any 6 pins or anything. These are straight off the board. And just idling, it looks like they're running about 115 watts the whole machine. Let me bring this up to editor for I can see. Yeah, about 115 is idle right now. It's actually, I'm installing. This had simple mining on it, and it's been running ETC. And I need to update the simple mining. It was an older version of simple mining. Like, it been screaming for an update. I run a few rigs here, so it's this is more for testing, and then the rigs go off site. So sometimes you have 3 or 4 in the hopper. I've noticed I've been mining intensive stuff like RVN or Zcash. My risers start to die. Any suggestions? I mean, it depends what kind of risers you got. If you have the 6-pin risers, or you have some of the 4-pin olds. 30-day difficulty. ETC is up 65%. Yeah, ETC's gotten. I mean, I've been talking about it for at least 2 months. People have been asking what I've been mining. I told people about 2 months ago I switched over to ETC. It was about right before, a couple of weeks before it was announced that ETC would be on Coinbase. So Coinbase is going to add Ethereum Classic, but there were a lot of rumblings that, I mean, you could take them for what they are, that they're going to add Ethereum Classic, but seeing where things were motioning and seeing some of the Medium articles coming out, and then seeing the development, the vibrant development community that's in ETC, it was making more and more sense to start to move some stuff over to ETC for a bit. So I've been mining ETC for about 2.5 months with most of the mining power. And even if you're not a real long holder on it, I mean, I'm going more long on holding with ETC just because I think you're going to get that organic growth whenever it actually shows up on Coinbase. You're going to have a lot of people that have Coinbase accounts that don't mine and are going to see a new asset on there and go, I want to diversify my portfolio a little bit, and I'm going to buy some ETC. So I think you're going to get that natural bump on ETC. The 009S risers, the one. You really having some issues? Man, I had like a zit here. It's just driving me nutty. I'm going to be messing with that the whole time. Hopefully not too much. It was hot in Vegas. I was in Vegas all last week. It happens more with the 1080 Ti's. It's about to happen. Coinbase is a really big deal. Yeah, so even if you don't love or hate Coinbase, like, take all those emotions and put them to the side on whatever you have with Coinbase and look at it pragmatically of what Coinbase is. It's a custodial service that gives you an ability to purchase cryptocurrency that you can move out of there. So they don't necessarily, it's like, unlike Robinhood, where if you're in a state in the US that you can buy on Robinhood, they're the custodial service and they hold it and you can't get your coins there. Coinbase allows you to buy it and then move them, right? So when you have a high liquidity pool, or an ability to get to a high liquidity pool where you have a lot of users and their bank accounts connected to it, and then if you put assets on there, it's a natural order of organic lift. So even right now with the suppressed prices, if you put a new asset on there and you have a base price of that asset that's on there, there's a chance, it's going to go up. It's just the probability of having more access to more liquidity with people that don't mine or not or following Twitter or any of that, and they just log into their Coinbase and then they see a new asset there and they have a zero amount in it, people have a tendency to add even a little bit to their portfolio. And then it's just a math problem. How many people are going to do that? So anytime there's a big ad, you'll have a lot of that front running buy-in that'll occur like on exchanges. And when exchange gets a new currency, there'll be a lot of people doing you'll see an asset start to rise in value like that. And, there's been issues with front running with that, where bottom line, it's like, kind of like inside information. Like if you know it's going to happen, you can go out there and purchase it. I mean, there's a lot of regulation with stocks and assets and the normal system, the normal financial system, to try to prevent that kind of activity if you have that inside information. With cryptocurrencies, it's not as cut and dry right now. That regulation's kind of trying to get set up, but it's very hard because it's global and it's not easy to put a wrapper around that. However, you can wrap individuals. So if you have a connection to a custodial service, or you're in a country that can mandate it, they can just audit you at the end of the day. So there's not a lot of that in the crypto asset stuff right now. So technically, it's kind of the Wild West on that. So like if Coinbase tried to get ahead of that, were vilified in December by just sneaking BCH in there, right? So when you had Bitcoin Cash get in there, a lot of people were like, what the hell? It just kind of dropped one day and it was there. So they got ahead of it and said ETC's coming. There's speculation they're going to add more. I think right now it's speculation. I don't think anybody else has put out there. If you have if you've seen anything from anything else they're adding, but there's a lot of speculation that they're going to add Ripple and a couple other ones out there too. But right now they've only said ETC. Sean, what are you saying here? Banks will not take cash deposits anymore unless it's in your name on that account. I don't know. I don't do a lot of cash deposits in a bank. Coinbase is one that probably will position and survive in the U.S. after regulations. Well, I mean, I think there's a few out there. Poloniex, I think, is positioning themselves for that with the acquiring, larger company acquiring them. There's to sell your coins. I haven't had any issues selling any coins with Coinbase, none at all. But I bank with small banks, so I don't try as much as I can not to bank with big banks. I just have never had good experience with them. It's like customer service issues most of the time. Like you're a peon, and even branch managers and local affiliates do not have any power to do anything. So if they mess something up or they've done something, it's just a waste of everybody's time. So I like to bank with a company or a local smaller bank. If you have smaller banks in your area, I'd recommend to go in there and just have a conversation with them. Just let them know how you're going to do business with them and kind of forge that relationship. And then if they feel comfortable with you and they see some repetitive activity and it's in the crypto world and they understand that that's what you're doing, then you have that established relationship with them. That's what I've done with my local banks. Because, I mean, I do have, we mine, we have to sell what we need to, paper for power and that kind of stuff. So when you have money coming over from Coinbase and that kind of thing, you're going to want to make sure that, that if you don't want to have any issues, that you have at least that relationship with your bank. But I mean, there's people on different sides of it. They don't want to mess with the banks. They want to do any of that. But until everybody else starts accepting crypto, it's a necessary thing. So it's better to have a good relationship than a bad one with them. Just use Coinbase for converting other coins to USD. Yeah, I mean, you could do it that way. Like you say, crypto is manipulated. Vegas was great, man. Thanks for asking. Hey, we did start. I just felt like I wanted to have that stream, for you guys could see some fireworks from our show. I mean, I just didn't have. I didn't have my proper. I left this mic here. I haven't bought a mobile one yet, so I take this mic whenever I go out of town. I need to get a mobile one, so whenever I go out of town, I'm going out. I'm in DC this week on Thursday, and I'm flying back Friday. So. Just in one day. A pretty important meeting on Friday. And then I fly back. So I might do a stream on Thursday out there. We'll see. It was just fine, yeah. Yeah, it was what it was. 50 people in, man. What's up, guys? So kind of just what I was doing here is this had Simple Mining on it. I need to update Simple Mining's OS. I try to do it through the little checkbox with a little red. When you're in simple mining, you're in managing it, and there's an update to the OS. They do toggle a switch in there to, you know, it's one of the tool icons turns red and lets you do an update for it, but it wasn't working with this rig, so it wouldn't take the update. So I'm just doing a fresh OS build with simple mining for this. That's ultimately what's going to be put on here, but I thought I'd throw Windows on it and just try some different stuff with this. So when we did this 1050 Ti rig, it wasn't it was just a couple things tested on it because I only did it with simple mining that day, so we never did a kind of a run through on it. And I have the 580 power color golden sample rig here with me right now too. Yeah, the new RX and NV. I did download Hive OS, and I need to go through and understand their interface. Their wallet configuration thing is interesting, so I need to go through and look at that. I actually put it in here, let it boot up, made sure the Hive OS would come up and stuff, but I want to learn that OS a little more before I actually do a video on it, and then give you guys kind of my opinions on it. And yeah, I mean, it looks fine. It looks run. I mean, I know a lot of people said they're running Hive OS without too many issues. For the folks that are still mining right now, I mean, a lot of folks have probably turned off their rigs right now with the cost, with the profitability down, and it's still pretty bullish on the market right now. I have not tried Awesome Miner either. I need to try Awesome Miner. I've heard a lot about it. I've seen a few people do videos on it and like add different miners to it and set up the configuration. That's pretty cool. I'm just never got around to it. I did have also Octaminer reached out and want to send out their latest board. I think it's just the board. I don't know. It wasn't a very detailed conversation, but they did reach out and ask if I wanted to do a review on one of their boards. I told them that would be no problem. I would take a look at it. We can throw a couple different series of cards on that. So we'll try that. And I still am waiting on information back on the mini board that I've done a few videos on now on the Nvidia. So they did send me a new BIOS. I asked the questions because I couldn't get any Nvidia cards to boot up on it. And then they sent me a new BIOS. So it didn't answer my question with the Nvidia not working, and maybe the BIOS they sent me, it might be just a language barrier because they are from Croatia. So I need to update that too. So we might get into that. They never replied to my email though. Attempted to grab an Octaminer board in case. Holland, thanks for those 23 bits, buddy. You live in an apartment, have all your rigs. Sent the Locast data center. Unfortunately, they only take server style cases. So I'm now putting 1072Is, 13. That's the most power can I get in a server case? You can get a 1600 watt T2 in one of the server cases. So it depends which server case, but like the gray matters that we've done a ton of gray matters, and when I take you guys up to the farm up north, you'll see the farm, and most of it was in the gray matter cases. So those, we have some 1600 watt T2s, which are a little bigger. Here, I'll show you. So you essentially have like 3 sizes in power supplies. I think actually 4, but the 3 for sure. So you have kind of the standard smaller size, no problem on these. You know, 860i, AX, smaller size, power supplies, no problem. Those will fit in there. The 1200 watt ones and 1000 watt ones are about, a little longer. Those have no problem in there either. And then the ones and we're talking on like the server style cases. Now here's the T2. It's a lot longer. So the 1200. So you got about another 1.5 inches on the T2. You know, that side it's obviously going to be the same. There's the same height and width. The length is different. So, and that'll work in the server case too. It's a tighter fit though. You just got to be careful with that. And for those wondering if, like, the server style, the length of those compared to, like, the T2 1600. Let me move this over. That's about 1 inch longer. So, maybe 1.5 inches. So that's a standard, like, server style power supply. So it's about 2.5 inches longer than a standard power supply length on this. It's one big boy. Yeah, the T2 1600's it's a beast, man. I had a lot of those for a while. Nice, Hollerant. Hey man, you know, a lot of people are sad with GPU mining right now, and I've been through this a few times with GPU mining. It's one of those things that as things start to rotate more towards ASICs because the profitability is there for them to build algorithms, or build ASICs for algorithms, then other algorithms come out, or a new way of processing stuff like render token, that sort of thing from the effort. Starts to be what people are working on to start using GPUs. And there's a lot of cheddar out there to have, and not just an algorithm from proof of work side to leverage GPUs, but there's a lot of compute power. And as we start to get into that layer 3, layer 2 and layer 3 blockchain tech, where compute and storage and all that starts leveraging other components of the PC, we'll start to see it start to resurge back there. It's just not going to go away. Just proof of work it's a way to do things when it comes to securing a blockchain network. And I mean, it's the pinnacle piece of the decentralization piece. But as use cases start to require more throughput, more bandwidth, maybe more processing power, then risers and all that kind of stuff will adapt to it if it needs to. So one of the discussion points I was having with Oh God, a Girl when we interviewed, when I guess essentially had a fireside chat / interview with her, was, the current 1X bus that we use on these graphics cards is one of the limiting factors on some of the effort like stuff that we need, because it needs the full bus of the graphics card to leverage the main pieces of the graphics card that it would have to do any kind of transfer with. Where this right now, the current proof of work essentially does not need a lot of bus width, and it throws it up onto the GPU, catches some cycles with that, and then it has a small stream that comes off of that card. It doesn't have a huge bus requirement, so we can do it on 1X slot. As if that requirement ever changes to where we have a very heavy load on the bus requirement, then you're going to have kind of a next gen series of risers that are going to have to come out, and they'll be like full length risers. And actually, Linus did a pretty good review a while back on. He was testing gaming, but he was trying to see, if you used a full length 16x riser, how many could you get? How long could you extend it first off before you started having some kind of issue? And I don't know if anybody remembers that video or not, but I think he had like 8 to 10 risers connected one after each other. And he had the graphics card way off the rig or the machine, and then I think after like this 8th or 9th, or no, maybe 10th, 12th riser length of 30 centimeter risers, he started getting it to where it was not getting the right bandwidth. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of options over time. It's going to make an interesting play on the tech when it comes to motherboards and stuff, because right now the bus lanes and the PCIe lanes are limited. I mean, to where you can only have so many. If you're running a full 16x slot and then the next few slots over are 8x and then 4x, if you were trying to like do a quad fire. So the mining rigs would go back down to like no more than 4 cards if you were trying to do full bus length. And your secondary and tertiary cards would be half the bandwidth required. So it's interesting over time of where things are going to go, if it's going to have to go to server boards or if they're cheaper solutions to that. As new requirements come out on blockchain, cryptocurrencies, that will just change it up for miners. I mean, the cards are going to be the center point, and then the ancillary hardware around it will just possibly need to get changed out when that kind of stuff comes through. Always a profit loss. Well, like right now, like I always tell people, like people come up to me. I was just talking to people in Vegas about this. Actually, I went to that Fry's. I was in the Fry's and somebody recognized me, which is amazing. It's the second time it's happened to me in the entire time I've been doing BBT. I'm standing in Fry's. I'm in the graphics card aisle. I took a picture and sent it up on Twitter about the Vega 56s were about retail price now. They're $490 or something in there. And I'm standing there. I'm looking at it, and this guy comes up and he goes, "Are you BBT Carter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, I watch your stuff." It was pretty funny because, I mean, I'm in Vegas. I haven't seen anybody, so that's the second time that's happened. It happened to me also in DC one time. But, I had that discussion with him, of like his main concern, because he had some rigs too, was, I have rigs. Power's a little expensive out there. Heating in Vegas is rough. Like, it's very hot. It's like 115 out there right now. So, like, he's just powering stuff off right now. But he was like, I don't want to. I have money to. I could buy coins right now. And I always told people, like, the way I do it personally, this is not financial advisor. But I buy and I still mine. And then you wait for those ATHs. You wait for those all-time highs to swing back. And then you take some profit. And you got to have a strategy and plan to that. What makes sense for you. And I'm like, a lot of this stuff, I try to go long-term HODL. It drives Miss BBT nuts sometimes. But, like, I see the forward vision of it. I see it as an asset class that's going to grow. Like, people are going to feel more trustworthy of their funds and storage as the custodial services and all the other OPSEC related technology strengthens. I would rather have something I could cryptographically prove is mine and that I know that I own and have it, more so than having it in the system. The long-term play on a lot of these assets are going to be just stores of value. Some of them are going to be utility coins. So when I'm sitting there having that conversation with them, I'm saying that I think the younger generation right now that understands technology is going to be more approachable to this technology as they start to understand it and get through the Twitter memes and everything else that's going on and all the scammy shit that comes down with this kind of stuff, and then starts to realize, like, you know what, at the end of the day, I have a storage of coins in my wallet. I have some in cold storage. I want to use this. I can use it. There's no third party messing with me. And it's a much better store of value for me, easier to access for me as those rest of those services come in play. So I think it's one of those longer term plays that people are going to shoot each other of like which crypto is better than whatever. One has another feature set than another one. But it's going to come down to like who has a good infrastructure, who has good development, trying to widen the array of tools that we can use and different ways that we can use our cryptocurrency as we start to. We haven't even hit the cool stuff yet, man. We haven't hit the connected state of current assets that are not digitized, like if it's gaming assets, if you're into gaming, and then the ability to snap those to a particular block and then have that registered as like a token on a network. So like, let's say you have an Ethereum. I mean, I'm going to throw out some ideas here that somebody's probably going to take and run with, and at least this is timestamped. but there's no reason that you couldn't create an Ethereum DApp. And you can use any EOS, Ethereum, anything that you use, a third, a platform-based coin, and then tie that to a physical asset like in a gaming world, and then have the ability to easily transverse that asset anywhere. So right now, if you wanted to do that through like skins or any of that through like Steam, you're posting it up on the Steam board. You can receive cash for that. Like, so if you have like Counter-Strike or Call of Duty or any of those kind of skins or any of the game assets, right now they're just linking those assets to accounts, and it's all done centrally right now with Steam, right? But what if you could cross that out and go anywhere, and it just happens to be on the blockchain? You're on your Ethereum account, you're looking under there, you click the token tab, and now you click an asset tab, and now you have these assets that are tied into your same Ethereum address. That kind of stuff's what I'm talking about. You could have your car, you could have this mouse, right, serial numbered to that, and say, you know what, I'm going to trade that to you, and now you physically own ownership of that, right? And then you tie in all the warranty services and all the other stuff that can be now all symmetry, because right now a lot of that kind of content is up in various centralized systems and companies. So, if this is a Razer mouse, this Razer mouse has a serial number, and their database somewhere has this serial number, right? They created it. That's the point of the serial number, is to validate the warranty on it, right? So if you had that kind of asset structure tied to a public permissionless network, you own the keys, you link the asset to it, that kind of stuff. This is the stuff that I'm talking about. This is what the stuff that people excited on the corporate side, when they start to see the interwebbing of commercial centralized system, commercial services that sit on top of that, like your warranty services. Then if you have the ability to now exchange that between people, service things better, because now you have this more streamlined system. I don't have to go through your Oracle database over to your web methods middleware to get to somewhere else, and giving them, make sure you set your JSON to this, right? I can actually just go call a smart contract that's sitting on Ethereum to an address that I've had since the beginning, right? And then it has links to all my particular assets that I can keep out there and be able to exchange, right? And then have some kind of level of authentication to where it just shows that, hey, I have 700 assets in there. You don't know what they are, but if I open up one of those to you, it's there. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. That's why I mine. That's why I purchase the coins myself, because I see the eventuality where this stuff's going to go. It's a natural order. It makes sense to where that's where it's going to go. It's like, it can't be unlearned. We know that this is the future state of things. So, sorry, I went way deep on you guys there. I was just kind of thinking about this and having this conversation with somebody outside of the space, that just saw me out in the open. We just had a kind of a deep conversation of why somebody would want to mine or be part of coins or all that kind of stuff. And that's why, right now I don't get so down on the price. I look at it as the factor for mining. There's a couple factors. Price definitely is one of them. If you have to pay for your power and all your expenses, and you're not using it as a store of like an investment vehicle, to where right now it's not highly profitable, but you're just paying for the power. You already have the sunk asset. You bought the cards. You're letting them run. But what happens with the difficulty? That's what matters right now for everybody, because that's how many coins you can get. And, that's your participation and value of the coins. If the difficulty's down because a lot of people are turning on their rigs, then you're going to get more coins. Even though it's not as profitable, you're still going to acquire more coins. So when that lift happens, you have amassed more currency that then you can sell at all-time high. That's kind of been the play for most of cryptocurrency mining in general. Anybody that's in that mining, you're exchanging time and money and your asset for an exchange for a currency, right? So is that going to be a currency or a token that will be worth potentially more money later on, and you would have amassed more? So right now, I think the difficulty for a lot of the currencies have been going up because the assets that are coming out to mine them are coming out with a higher output, right? So ASICs that are coming on the network, even though a lot of people are turning off their mining rigs because it is a kind of a stop loss right now for some people that have 25-cent kilowatt hour charge. That kind of stuff is where the that you would think that the total difficulty is coming down, but it's actually going up because the other tech's coming out. I've seen some people saying it's already existing. Check the word-filled game. So there's folks that are, yes, there are some of those things that are out there already right now for particular games. What's missing right now is, so the infrastructure I was just talking about a lot with the gaming and the asset classes and all that kind of stuff. There are multitudes of functions and features out there that people are already creating on that. Part of the gap right now is the regulatory and then legal structure when it comes to transferring ownership of those assets. Like right now, you still have to capture that is a taxable event in, like, at least the U.S. And a lot of companies that are playing at this right now and creating this right now are not quote unquote live, because they got to get through some of those questions and answers on that. The government needs to put a position out there of what, how those type of situations, those use cases are going to be handled when it comes to like taxation and ownership change, and when does it come binding and legal, when, if you want to transfer an asset that way. Like that kind of infrastructure needs to kind of coalesce with it, but there's an opportunity to not make it complicated, right? And that's where part of the efforts that I do when I go to DC and some of the events that you guys see me at is I'm trying to help nurture, when I can, those kind of conversations in some of those government forums, to where there's an opportunity to simplify the process of those things. Like there's laws and there's regulations of things, but you cannot just tie some of the activities that we're talking here and just snap it to the old rules, right? You have to there has to be a two-way change that makes sense for everybody. If the government's trying to keep track of something like AML, like the anti-money laundering, like there should be a quality gate that goes through there that good participants can pass through it pretty easily. You're never going to take all of the fraud out of the system. It's very hard to do that. I mean, it's like, because people are just fallible, and you got trusted parties, sometimes are not trusted. I mean, there's like, it's a very complex issue. It's not just pushed under the rug. It's too complex. It's just like literally it's that complex you have to walk through the details, especially if you're going to change the archaic rules that have been out there that had years of whatever with, trying to figure out what made sense. Now you drop this on it, and it's going to be a little more, you shouldn't just push it away. You should look at it, open it up, and make some rule changes. And that kind of stuff that I'm talking about is what some of those committee and meetings and stuff are for. I'm reading some of your guys' question. I saw their company was UAE based. Yeah, so I mean, all the whole thing, like, oh, I'm in another country, you can't touch me thing. So if you want U.S. participation, like everybody's got to kind of figure out what makes sense. So even if you're in a different country, like Binance is in, a country that is a little light on the laws when it comes to some of the regulatory stuff. But if people have assets in their system and they're not reporting it, I mean, there's like there needs to be, it's kind of like a general consensus on specific things, like the way AML works, anti-money laundering, and that with the agreement between nations and stuff to freeze accounts and all that kind of stuff, like that kind of stuff in general. There needs to be a blanket base level of understanding of what makes sense. And then all the million of laws that are in each different country. I mean, it's like when I used to work at Anheuser-Busch, and I was a pricing person for Anheuser-Busch. And when I was doing pricing, we did it not at a state level. I did it at a county level, and sometimes I did it at even a lower level than at the county level, because you would have jurisdictions within counties, like in the southern states of the U.S., were called parishes, where you would have no alcohol, and then you would have 3.2, and then you'd have 5%, all in the same county. And it went down to the store level, right? Just because there's rules of some people in some general area didn't want alcohol, and some other people in the county were like, F you, I want alcohol. And so they moved into different neighborhoods that have different stores. It gets down to that level when you're talking about a subject that is controversial, like where fintech with new money, that kind of thing is going to be controversial with the way things are going to be handled from taxation, anti-money laundering, all that stuff. And it's going to get down to that level of granularity. So when you start looking at right now, the news and what's covered in the news and all that stuff is right now at a country level, right? Like this country versus this country laws. In reality, it's going to go a lot deeper than that, because of just the consistencies and people's wills in particular areas, but there needs to be a generality of it. Basically, they need to be compliant with ISO, the general rule. So ISO is just a standardization. That's one of the things. I got when I was out in DC, I had got an offer to partake in the discussions for TC 307, which is the blockchain ISO standardization discussion. And all that means is it's not the rules of the government on what blockchain is. It's saying that if you're going to have a business-to-business connection, let's say fintech or let's say supply chain, and you want to be able to talk to two companies agnostic to chain, so you're talking Ethereum, EOS, any IOTA, which I know is having some serious drama right now with their network. If you're going to partake in a business transaction for, let's say, invoicing, in procurement, that means something. You are exchanging an asset for money. You have an agreement of terms. There's a lot of the same language and all that. Like supply chain stuff is supply chain stuff is supply chain stuff. If I'm doing bullets, beer, water, cars, all this stuff, all of those type of things, there's a standardization with like invoicing. So if there's a TC 307 ISO standards for like blockchain, would be like two companies coming in and saying, hey, I want to connect to you through an Ethereum smart contract. Are you following TC 307? And if they said yes, then that would mean that they both agree on the template that's going to be used for their transaction, for their particular group, right? So if they're supply chain or if they're a fintech, like invoicing through financial stuff, kind of like EDI, anybody that's in here that understands EDI and then the different numbers for EDI transactions. So I'll be, I believe, monthly going out and participating at Georgetown University to help set some of those TC 307 standards. That makes sense for businesses that want to do business on like public and private blockchains, right? So that's like, that opportunity is huge. That helps me challenge some of the misnomers of people that don't understand on what is in the realm of possible. Plus, using the system architecture and background, being able to help nurture that discussion, because people will gravitate to what they know. It's just the human nature. So if they only know the standardization mantra of language and don't understand the capabilities of blockchain, kind of tear down some of the walls there when it comes, not just some of them, actually all of them, if they agree to move things to a public permissionless network like any of the cryptocurrency networks and just leverage the innate abilities on that network. You cut through a lot of the BS. Thanks, Joe. Sometimes I feel like I just ramble to you guys, man, but hopefully some of this stuff is informative. Thanks for that. Subscribe, Custom Cars. Do appreciate that. But like all that infrastructure I'm talking about is like the mining aspect of it is we're just holding the network up, right? And for holding up the network and securing the network through the proof of work security, we allow and validate the transactions that occur on that network. For that, we get the token. We are like one small little bit on the entire ecosystem that like is kind of treated like the doormat. If anybody that's in here, like do a here. I mean, the crypto mining scene is like the doormat of the industry. It's a thankless industry, right? To be part of the crypto mining. It literally is. It's like this. You're at the bottom tier of the service industry when it comes to the crypto network, because all the decisions on the centralized kind of distributed network side is going to be done without our real opinions on things. From the more centralized stuff, and because the incentive, we are the burger flippers. Yeah, I mean the incentive structure is already built in. With or without anybody caring, they essentially they lay forth the blockchain network. We hold it up. We are nameless. We are participants, right? And we are already rewarded for our participation. So there's no other acknowledgement that's needed, right? I mean, by definition, that's what mining is, right? The mining is just an open network. It's the algorithm, and it's saying you want to play, you get paid, and don't let the door hit you if you stop mining, right? So it is a kind of a interesting participation. When people ask me about mining outside of it, like why would you mine? I'm like, it's as linear as it gets. I exchange power and material for a token, and I don't have to ask permission. I just connect to the network and I'm paid out. But it's, and there's a lot of questions, and people will say, why don't we have more of a voice on some of these networks and stuff? And it's kind of like, well, we have the power to either choose a coin or not to coin if we want to mine it. But we automatically, because we're human, get attached, very detailed to, some of those different coins and the different networks and stuff. So like when Ethereum says, hey, for you guys, we're not going to do this thing that will prolong mining in an ASIC resistant fashion, or any of the other, or like Zook on Equihash, just embracing the ASIC side. We feel alienated, but it's one of those, thinkless things. What I look at is that just more, I always try to approach it pragmatically, that I think that because people understand that there's a huge mining community, you'll end up getting people trying to tap that in some way, meaning that they'll say, if I build this, I know the mining community will be there. Right? If I build this and it makes sense and it has this new innovative way to do compute, and I'm going to spend the time and effort there, all they got to do is build it, and then we will point rigs to it, right? People will point rigs to it. I love it. I wish I could make it a full-time thing, though. Well, I mean, you can. And even in peak, in very unprofitable time frames, it's a scale thing. So if you have a lot of rigs, it's just like how much, the more influence you have on that network, you reach a point where it's well past break even on times like right now, price wise, because you get the economies of scale situation. But it's very hard in a minor involvement. I'm saying like 10, 15 rigs, it just becomes very overbearing on cost. From a power standpoint, and your yield is not going to be near what you need to sustain on when profitability is down. I mean, this was like 2014 all over again right now. It's still better than 2014 though. I mean, 2014 was like I was mining 1,200, 1,500 Feather coin and maybe 10 Litecoin a month. And Litecoin was $3, so that was $30 a month, and I was spending like $300 in power, and 1,500 Feather coin was worth like, was about the same Satoshi price as Raven is now, so about 200 Satoshi, 300 Satoshi, something like that. So yeah, it was horrible. Like I was making like $60 a month, and I was spending 350 in power. But it was 10 Litecoin a month at that point, right? Now, that was worth it looking back, right? I was paying $300 for 10 Litecoin and 1,500 Feathercoin, which Feathercoin's what, about 20 cents, something like that, 18 cents. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to is like nobody knows the future value, but like if you're making that investment, you've already sunk the cost in the gear. This is like a horrible time to sell gear. Like people keep asking me like, hey, I'm just going to divest my rigs. I'm like, like if you have to, I get it. But like it's cheaper to turn it off and wait for a lift, then either get back on it or move it over. My winter power is about 9 cents. My summer power is 24 cents. Yeah, power sucks, man. You can offset some of it with solar, but all of it's more capital investment. You know, it's all like how long is the ROI on the solar? And solar is getting cheaper, but hey, you know, I've been talking for like how long? Almost an hour. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully that's some of it's been fruitful. Let's check this rig out. Hey, I'm gonna restart just in time to restart. Here, let me go back to main camera. Yeah, solar is expensive. It's just not like, it's not all. And mind you, like it's, you know, if you have to also cool it, if you're not in a cool area, it's just, it might make sense to, you know, power them down or run a lower algorithm that doesn't use as much juice like XMR. Something that's not as hard on them. Or run at a lower intensity. You won't get as much. Like that's another alternative. I mean, I was gonna have a whole episode on that, just to talk like and like do power, fly in here, to do a cost comparison. Like if you set your intensity level for like Ethereum way down, and like if you're getting a 30 mega hash rig and you drop it to like 18 because you're running at a lot less intensity, and you drop your power usage down to like 300 watts. But you're still getting like half of the rig performance. That was one of the things I wanted to kind of go over. Like that might be a solution for people right now, where you're not just running the rig in full intensity, and then you'll have a lot more stability with it. And you're only running like you know, if you have a 30 mega hash card, you're running at about 15 mega hash. You're running at like a quarter intensity. It uses the whole rig. You use like 300 watts of power, and you're still getting like literally half. Like so, if you have a 180 mega hash rig, and you're still getting almost 100 mega hash for like 300 watts, that might be a better play for people that have a lot of expensive power, because you're still in the game, you're still mining, but you're doing it at a lot less power usage than just turning it off. Like that's an option. A lot of people don't know that you can greatly reduce the intensity on some of the algorithms and not tax the card as much. I mean, it's like its own episode, because I would like to do it for all the different currencies to show people how to like drop the intensities down. You know, like Nvidia, like you can do it in many ways too. Like you can just drop the power limit to the lowest setting, like on some of the Nvidia cards, and it's going to have the output, and you're going to use no power. I mean, you're going to use 300 watts of power compared to like 950. And you're essentially taking out 70%, 60, 70% of the power usage of that rig and still getting half. I know I keep saying it, but I want to make sure it's pounded in. I try not to use. I use an external fan, man. If you're running your rigs at a higher fan speed, save the fan on the rig itself, and drop the add a external fan to it. You ever tried the 1x to 4 USB cards? Yes. You can't. Yeah, you'll hit a limit at about 13 card. Like so, if you had 4 of those or whatever. Whew, look at that. Gotta love Windows and with that update. There's 13 GTX 1050 Ti's. No exclamation points. Yeah, Yeah, if you're running, I try to run all the fans no more than like 30-40% at most. I have a few fans on one of the rigs. It's a strict also. It's the RX 480 cards. I have a couple fans that look like they're about to give out. And those 480s are when the Strix first came out, so a couple years old. Which is crazy because I still have some XFX 7870s or 7970s. Yeah, 7870s. I think they're 7870s. And they're still running fine. Actually, I follow Mo. That's SG Miner. That fly just wants to be in this area. I keep seeing him land on the microphone. Like, bro. We may have to set... Try some Raven on this real quick. I never did Raven on this. So these are 1050 Ti's. They're obviously set to default speeds right now. .9. So could probably increase it just a little bit. I think these things will do about 3 mega hash piece. Let's see what the power is on this. $791 watts. You guys can see it right down there. 770. 36.5 mega hash or 8 mega hash. 37. This whole rig's almost 40 mega hash. It looks like it's gonna break 40. 13 cards, I think, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 13 cards in here. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, 804, 800 watts. Yeah, this is the only thing that's plugged into it right now. This whole system. It's on a RM1000X. I think it's a gold power supply. Yeah, so it's a Corsair RM1000, and there's no 6-pin on this, so it's just all the risers and the board. And it's got, obviously you can see that's the Asus B250, yeah. I think it's the B250. Yeah, it's the B250 mining expert board. Ooh, we're over 40. Yeah, there they go. 3.5. I thought they were a little run a little faster. Yep, it's the B250 motherboard. Running 13 cards. You can run 13 in Windows with 13 Nvidia cards in Windows. And this is essentially just a fresh build of Windows. All the updates turned off. It's just got this. This is a 1709 latest Nvidia driver, and then BBT multi-miner 6.0 running Raven. I just had not ran Raven on this yet, so I knew that they do about 3 mega hash, I think, total. So yeah, and it's on a lower portion of the algorithm right now, lower intensity. So 770. It'll probably drop all the way down to 600 on parts of the algorithm, and then it'll swing back up to 800. No overclocking on this right now. It's just right out of the box. I could probably get a little less if I drop the power limit on it. Let's see if that helps. Let's close that out real quick. See you, Derek. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Let's drop the power limit down to 70. $350 on that. Do a light overclock on that. Just initially, not 3. Come on. Do 54 is fine. It's got to apply that to all of them. It might take it a second. Stay hydrated, bot. What the hell? We've been live for just over 1 hour. By this point, I should have taken 4 ounces of water. All right, it applied. So you saw when I applied that, it took it a cool minute to go through all those cards. It looks like it's still trying to apply. Let's see if that makes a little difference on the power. See if the clocks come back up. $37. Okay, we're back up there. Whew, look at that power, boys. 490 watts. 35 mega hash. We halved it. These 1050 Ti's are amazeballs. So we're at 70 power limit on the 1050 Ti's. We're at 37 mega hash. So we were up to about 45 earlier. So we're going to see if it can settle back up to 45 mega hash. We're going to leave it running for a second. But yeah, 489 watts, 13 cards. That's pretty low. I like making magic on here for you guys. Miss doing these. I wish I could do them more often. Oh, in the fall and the winter, man, I'm going to be all over this, guys. Yeah, the fans are on auto right now. So we're up to 40 mega hash. We're still under 500 watts. 40.7. 540. We're on a harder part of the algorithm. So we're 550. Yeah, if I can talk Oh God a Girl from let me get in the unlock the ETH pill, I'd love to see what these little buddies could do. That would be very interesting. $42 mega hash. So we did not take a hit on the mega hash. We're almost at 44 mega hash. We're at 544 watts of power. So we knocked off. We were at 800. So that's a pretty significant drop. So if you have these 1050 Ti's in general, running them at about 70%, it's pretty decent. No, it's not just GDDR5X. It actually works for all Nvidia cards. They unlocked it for 1080s and 1080 Ti's. They actually do it for all the Nvidia cards. All the we're gonna let I want to see if this is stable. We're gonna let this run for a second. All that's happening with the ETH pill is where you have an AMD card, we can modify the BIOS and we change the memory timings, right? So when you change the memory timings to be more aligned to what's going on with the work that's going on there, it enhances an AMD card pretty significantly. You add the compute mode for the driver and you change the timings on an AMD card, like an RX 580, you can take that card from doing 18 to 24 mega hash, from 24 to all the way up to 30 mega hash, right? So a pretty significant change from 18 to 30 mega hash, more than double. Nvidia cards, BIOS locked, memory fast, but not necessarily linked in the timing to be optimized. So essentially all they're doing is kind of a man-in-the-middle exploit attack on it's not a man-in-the-middle, but it's capturing in memory right before the miner kicks on, and it's adjusting the timings. It's doing a hard change on the timings of the memory. So that's all the ETH pill's doing. So it's essentially doing, since the BIOS is locked, when it unlocks to start registering for the memory to get its cycle time and its timings, it's just injecting essentially a new set of timings that's optimized for the particular memory type on the Nvidia card. That's all that's happening with the ETH pill. So it sets a memory and it just attacks that pipeline with the right timings that make it optimized, and that's why you're getting that virtual bump. But they have card locked it to look for the card type to 1080 and a 1080 Ti, and that's why they only works for those two. But technically they have it for everything: 1050s, 1050 Ti's, 1070s, 1070 Ti's, the gambit, right? So, and it's not necessarily it's a theoretical calculation that they do to figure out what could be done, and then they actually apply it to the card to see what the output is. So something like a 1080 Ti theoretically with GDDR5 probably could hit 17, 18 mega hash with the ETH pill per card on like ETH. So for this, instead of 3 mega hash, it'd probably be 4.5, 5 mega hash per card. What's stopping them is they created this for a client, and evidently they had some language in that discussion that allowed them to release part of it. So they did it as kind of as just a courtesy. They don't get money for it. They get donations. And actually, from their perspective, it was kind of a blowback. Like the community kind of attacked them. And it comes down to just human nature when it comes to when you get things for free. We've been trained to say that's not possible, and there's always a catch, because it's just human nature. Like, why is somebody going to give something up? Why would they give a position up? Why would they give any kind of advantage? And at the end of the day, you know, they did everybody a solid by putting it out there, and it's functional for anybody that has 1080s and 1080 Ti's. It would be nice to have it on some of the 1050s and 1070s, especially 1070s. And I guess whatever agreement they had made is that they could not release it for the 1070s and stuff. One of the other counterpoints to, I think, what they were saying, though, is that they were surprised that nobody else has done this yet. Like, now that people know that you can inline hack the pipeline, why hasn't somebody else released it? More than likely somebody that puts that investment time into it are just taking advantage of it for their own cards, and they're not releasing it. So at some point in the future, I would imagine somebody's going to release one from a pay perspective. And at that point, I think the poison pill against that is that if somebody else puts the time and effort into cracking it themselves, figures out the right timing, and then goes to bottle that up and sell it, then oh god, a company is just going to release what they have. Like, that's part of their agreement, that whoever they've created this agreement with have said if this thing goes live from somebody else, then we are nullified on our contract with you to hold it back. So it's going to be kind of a win-win, and it's going to come down to who you're going to go with. I call it a poison pill for anybody that takes on oh god, a company, because if oh god, a company comes out with a pay version of it, then are you going to go with one that you know, or are you going to go with somebody you don't know, and that kind of thing. You seem to know a lot about what's going on. I interviewed oh god, a company. And one of the thing with me in general is I don't forget a lot. That's one of, if people have different skill sets, like I'm horrible at basketball, but I can remember a lot. So like if I have a conversation with somebody or I've read something, a tech manual, how something functions, I just retain it. So, and when I have an interview with somebody or I want to discuss the various technical points of how it functions, I want to understand it mechanically. So like when I went to CES, I'm on the floor talking to business people, and I was like, okay, where's the engineers at? I want to talk about how, your next GDR5 or GDR6 is going to function mechanically, because then I can understand on where they're going with it and what's it going to, is it going to be enhancing ray tracing? Is it going to do this? Because then I can see where we can start to see some advantage on it. You're not the only one that's cursed with the knowledge. I remember me remembering the line from Infinity War. Yeah, that's funny. I'm same way, Carter. I just can't remember the other important things. Yeah, so short-term memory type of stuff, or stuff that I don't care about. And Miss BBT would come on here right now and just say, okay, yeah, he's like a computer on some stuff, but is horrible at other things. Like, all of us have our flaws for sure. I forget things just as easy as anybody else when it comes to the daily task, repetitive nature stuff, for sure. Everybody is fallible in that. It's just technical information, stuff that I care a lot about when it comes to like understanding something. Is a lot different than storing like short-term mundane task. I remember all the names from the X's, just saying. It's funny. So this thing looks stable, guys. This is one of the things I wanted to test. We can try a couple of different things. 41 mega hash. We're still at 530 watts. So it is definitely handling RavenCoin without a problem. I'd like to do more of a longer term test, but I think that's pretty much in the bag. 41 mega hash and 500 watts. And then let's check. ETC 13 cards. I do always like, I don't like Windows that much, but I do like seeing that, and Windows still blows my mind. Oh, can't allocate the DAG. This thing is not set to Let's go in and set that real quick. That error, if you cannot allocate the memory, is your swap file or your virtual memory. Whew, gotta go bigger. Yay. Oh, this mini keyboard. What in the hell? Num lock is on. Let's just try 60 for right now. Am I planning on purchasing any FPGAs? Probably not. It's just not, the math isn't adding up for me. The $4,000 is a pretty heavy cost for a piece of equipment. Yeah, cost hash, just yeah. I mean, so $38.50 I think was the price that I could have got them at, and even at $38.50, I wasn't a deal. I just wasn't wanting to spend that kind of money on it. I mean, I'll test one if a company sends one out, and I'll send it back to them. But you know, that way you guys can see the various bit streams on it. But it's just not. You bought a $3,000 Volta. Yeah, I use that Volta every day though, folks. And that Volta plays video games. That Volta does all kinds of stuff. And the Volta does not require custom bit streams. And I went through a 6-week course on learning how to write Python code with an entire machine learning exercise to understand on how to like spin up image verification. I'm just calling it a machine learning because it wasn't like full on tensor core. I mean, it uses the tensor cores, but it wasn't like the cool stuff that you're seeing out there. It's just teaching the machine how to do stuff with the tensor cores. So I'm actually leveraging the card for those reasons too, because I want to understand it. I don't work in that space. I just want to understand how it works. It's, again, I'm kind of like a tinkerer when it comes to that kind of stuff. I want to understand what all the hoopla with machine learning was. And not even AI. I mean, like AI is a whole other thing, right? Like a lot of the data sets to get into the machine learning itself. I wanted to understand on what was the requirement on that if I was going to be ever responsible for a project or a team that had to deliver something in the machine learning or AI space. That's how I like to learn those things, is I want to learn how to code it myself. I've never wanted to be in a position to where I was trying to have somebody to do something and telling them on a timeline or something on how to do something if I have not done that job before myself, or if I don't understand what's involved with it. I don't think it's fair to the person of me requesting their efforts. So it's a way I've always played it as a manager or a leader. I want to have had some experience in the job to have an appreciation of what goes into it. Let's see here. Nobody knows what real hash from the FPGAs will do. Yeah, a lot of it, I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I've heard a lot of talk. I know minority companies selling and going to set up and do stuff with them. I'm interested in seeing that. Maybe at some point I can get a login and then do a review on it. I would happily do that with them to give everybody kind of a visualization of that. You know what's involved with that, but and it died. So it's got enough space now, but it's dying on the line. I was doing ETC. I'm going to try Ethereum. They're different epoch levels, so I'm going to see, and then we'll try this is 197. So Ethereum Classic's a little ahead of Ethereum right now in the epoch, mainly because Ethereum was like slow as hell for a bit there. See, it looks like Ethereum's working. So what the deal there is why Ethereum's working and Ethereum Classic isn't right now is I think I still need to increase the buffer a little larger, the virtual memory, because the epoch level right now is 197 on Ethereum and 13 cards in Windows. We may be bouncing up against that 60 gig. I might have to move it to 65 to 70 gig to then have ETC work if I was doing this in Windows. So Ethereum's working right now. It's on the epoch level of 197 with 60 gig buffer on the virtual memory. And these cards are about 12.3. So 13 card rig, 160 mega hash, and we are at 838 watts. So 838 watts on Ethereum. 160. Let's try. Yeah, they're real close, but it's close enough to where it may be just throwing off. I bet you if I bring that buffer up to 70, ETC would work. Yes, because it has to pre-cache that buffer for each of the cards. So the more cards you have, the virtual memory. Like this 30 gig virtual memory should have worked fine like on an 8 card rig. The 13 card rig in Windows is a little different story. Just the way Windows handles memory. Its memory management sucks. Like in Linux, we're not using that much. We're not using a swap file or anything. But the overhead and the way Windows handles virtual memory and its allocation of memory when it's handling a process like this, you need a huge amount of virtual memory. This is like OS specific because you don't do virtual memory settings like that in Linux. So it's just a love for Windows, right? Or the people that love Windows have to deal with that. Let's look at here. So we know ETH is working. I want to look and see because I don't think these settings saved in Afterburner. We shouldn't be running that high on. It did not. Let's unlink those. Let's set this guy down. Let's bring this guy up. It's going to take a second. So you just click that button one time. If you get a lag in Windows like that, when you have a lot of cards like that, it's actually going through and posting all those results to those cards. It's actually making a reference to set those and then execute it in memory, and then there it goes. It went away. Minimize that. Let's go back in and hit Ethereum. $59 in there. Oh, I always do that with the two keyboards. One's in front of the other. So look at 6 compute units. These are 4 gig cards. It's got to commit that buffer. Still hasn't committed the frame buffer yet. I can see it working. There it goes. See that DAG creation time, that frame buffer there? It's not done creating all the frame buffers. And it might be the overclock too, it's throwing it off. Have you had any of the 1050 Ti failures yet? No, I haven't had any failures on any of the 1050 Ti's I have. I have 3 different types of 1050 Ti's, including the dual fan EVGA for the Win edition. We may have a hard freeze here. No, maybe so. It's really struggling trying to get the rest of that frame buffer. And you can see what these go up to. Look at that, 14.1 mega hash. If I can try to get that to commit, this would be about 183 mega hash rig. Yeah, I don't think it liked. Here it goes. It's just struggling right now. Accepted a share. It's trying to commit the rest of that frame. Yep, and there we go. Watchdog error. So it finally just dumped it. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring that back down a little bit. I think it was just too much on the overclock on those. That's 500 megahertz on these. About 14.1. I think I had these at like 13.9 at like a 350 overclock on the memory, which is pretty decent. I think a few of them will run at 14.1, but the whole lot of them has a problem with it. Now in Linux, I can get these things solid at 14.0. Just Windows and 13 cards is like living on the edge, even for Nvidia. I'll let that come back up. What else do we got here, guys? What time is it? An hour and 20. We'll go for another 30 minutes. I'll bring over the other couple of rigs I'm going to be working on. One second. I'm going to go grab the other rigs and bring them over. So these are the Red Devil. That's a 7 card. Say 7? Yeah, that's the 7 card. 7 card golden sample power color RX 580 Red Devils. So those are all golden samples. And that has a single power supply in it. It's an RX, it's the 1600 watt T2. So like that 1600 watt T2 I just had there. 13 is not the max for Windows. The max for Windows we hit on my YouTube live stream for the folks that were around for when I was doing YouTube live streams. And the max we hit was 21 cards in Windows. 2-1. And we did that with the B250 mining expert board. That was a fun video for anybody that's wants to skip through and see some pretty cool stuff. That was definitely a fun video. I think we were running, like, I think that rig was like, we dual mined with that. It was 550 mega hash on Ethereum while also mining 12,800 Decred dual mining. One rig in Windows, 550 mega hash. That was a 4+ hour video. Yeah, you have to skip towards the end. Those are my long live streams. I don't do those live streams as much as those live streams anymore. That was a fun time, though. But that was like real, true iterative testing. That was like, does this work? Does this not? And then just working together through the problems. Let's try this, be less aggressive. I still want the 70. I'm going to unlock that in a second. So 70 is the sweet spot on these cards. Unlock. I'm going to take this up just a little. Not as high. Let's do that. 374 is fine. I'm okay with auto. Yeah, a lot of the folks on YouTube don't know that I stream online. I mean, I've posted a few of these videos, but like people just don't. I mean, we used to get. I mean, during the peak, I think my biggest video had like 1,000 views, or 1,000 live folks. That was the Titan V. But I will be doing a live stream, and that one will be a dual. I will figure out the dual stream. I will be on YouTube for a live stream when the 1180 Ti's come out. And I obviously will get that as fast as possible, and we will do a full comprehensive review with the multi-miner on there, and go through all the different algorithms with the new DDR6 Nvidia card. I will be picking up one of those for sure when it comes out, and we'll do the full gamut on that. That one as like as a scheduled event, like that will be like the day I get it. Make sure that I'm going to do first overnight on it when it becomes available for purchase. I'll also be checking the local stores just in case if that comes ahead of time, and even if I have one ordered, I will pick up another one. That will be an event. Because as with the Titan V, I like it was like the first, well, the Threadripper 1950X and the Titan V. From a live stream perspective, I think I had some of the first out there. There was some Threadripper videos of like unboxing and like the bigger YouTubers, you know, doing their reviews on them, but they were embargoed. And the night the embargo lifted, I bought the chips, you know, so I was able to go out there and get it. And, you know, oh, blip. Dad. GPU failure. Might have a corrupt VM file, virtual memory file. That or these are just super sensitive in Windows and they do not like overclocks. Yeah, we might be hard freezing again. So, at least for Windows, I think that's a wrap on that one. I'll be putting just the simple mining back on it and running simple mining on it. I just wanted to see what it would do with Raven because I had not done Raven on it yet. Look at it, running 271 watts right now as it's trying to fail. Oops, let me put the other screen on where we can watch it blue screen in the corner there. Yeah, I got simple mining on a drive already for it. We can plug that in real quick. Meanwhile, BTC is getting wrecked. Is it getting wrecked today? Every time I do a stream, it's getting wrecked. It's up 0.1%. $67.85 or 82. I mean, everything else is kind of down right now. I saw Raven had a little bump for a little bit, but now it's back down 6%. 233 Satoshis. Holy crap, I need to get some more. My buy on that's about 200 Satoshis. Like a hard buy. It went to 203 and then bounced back up to 250 Satoshis and then back down to 230. That's still way cheap. Bancor exchange is hacked. I don't know how a decentralized exchange could be hacked unless the smart contract was operating some of the swaps was compromised. Why is Raven so popular? Raven's so popular because it's kind of the it has a lot of the feelsies from like the original Bitcoin, to where it's not centralized. It's got contribution of effort, but people in the community can really steer where it's going. And it has that kind of I would say cult mentality behind it. I mean, I got behind it because I liked what their intentions with the asset approach that they were doing from a private or from a permissionless public system that isn't highly centralized. And like if you have like an Ethereum where you still have the Ethereum consortium that can go through and still make pretty hard changes on the network without the consensus of the network, and can on demand hard fork with the nodes, and we just kind of go with the flow and we're weaned out. I like at least an approach from an asset system that does not have that kind of governing body. So there's an attraction to that, and then having Patrick Byrne from Overstock behind it. I like his mission. I like his life story of what he's kind of a maverick in the system, in a big corporate world. I like the approach because sometimes you need that mix up of good, strip some of the governance of some things. You need regulation. You need laws and structure, but it needs to be not gamed. and that's his approach. And like since he was behind at least trying to help some of the nurturing of the company that put together the X16R algorithm, and was doing it from a decentralized concept, that's why I support Raven. And I like the idea of what they have from the asset side again. So, I mean, I haven't trolled YouTube that much to see, but I want to say it was pretty unknown. And then I did a video on it early, like weeks after it was released. And after I did that video, and I'm not saying I was the cause of that for no reason, I think I was a contributing factor of getting some exposure to Raven, though. There was a handful of people that came in and did videos also on it. But once that exposure got out there, and then that initial exposure, like, I don't have that much influence on it. I like will show people stuff, and then if people do the research themselves and then believe in it and get behind it, it does do a lift. I still am that same way with Ubiq. I like Ubiq. I've held Ubiq. I've mined Ubiq. I like their governance structure. If you're going to be in that kind of centralized governance structure on a public permissionless blockchain like an Ethereum platform, I like Ubiq's structure better than I actually like Ethereum's. So if people are writing smart contracts in Solidity, in Go, in JavaScript, and compiling it for Ethereum's network, it'll work on Ubiq. It'll work on Ethereum Classic. It'll work on MusicCoin. It'll work on Expanse. Like, that platform type of coins are, their code contributions work mostly part and parcel with what they've put in for like Ethereum. So you have this kind of secondary and tertiary benefit on those kind of networks. You enabled me. Yeah, anybody that got into Raven, man, early, I think that was a great thing. You were the one that lit the fire for Raven. I definitely gave it exposure when it didn't have any, to an audience of people that watch stuff. So on crypto mining. So, and then other miners, I think other mining channels obviously watch us. So it got exposure. But I mean, like, I don't do that a lot. People are like, hey, what are you doing next? What are you doing? I'm like, right now I'm doing ECC. I'm reviewing a few other currencies because I'm trying to understand what their purpose, what's their vision. I think it's XNDA, and there was one more. I don't know what the acronym of it is. I haven't really reached. I've seen people ask me about Deep Onion. I mean, I'm trying to understand render token more. I want to actually sit down and have. I think I'm going to sit down and talk to the render token folks and have like a live stream, and we're going to discuss what are the barriers to get render token out there into the hands of GPU miners and mining for that network. I'm very part and partial to the next phase of crypto mining. So like if we can get something that's doing general compute, I'm going to put a lot of time on understanding that, because I believe that from a future side. So I'd very much like to use my rig for render token. Yep. And I think getting that in would be money for folks that are wanting to use their rigs, not just to hold up a network, but actually provide other work. And there's a whole other incentive mechanism built into that when you're actually doing work. So if you're using a network to perform proof of work and you're submitting your shares and you're getting paid out based on your participation to that, but then if you accept a job and you process a job, and let's say it's doing a round robin, it's random, you get it picked up. It's kind of like winning an orphan in block in Ethereum, to where anybody that was mining full blocks in Ethereum through like Ethermine, or ethmine.org, and when you would earn a block, when you had enough shares to get the next block, you got the block, regardless of if it had an orphan with it or not. So you always were hoping for the one with the orphan because you'd get 5 coins plus an extra 3.5. Do you expect FPGAs will be for the long-term series? FPGAs, as long as you have somebody writing Bitstream, will be there forever, just like GPU. And if you have a company behind it that's actually putting in effort that will then sell you a service for your FPGA, like Minority, then you're going to get at least a paid service that'll support your mining efforts, you know, for writing bit streams or having some kind of daughter card add-on functions, as in what Oh God, a girl was talking about when she was saying that using a primary graphics card for main functionality of the algorithm, but doing some offset work on some of the other components of the algorithm, especially on the chained algorithm setups, to where you could have let's say you have bit streams for 3 of 16 of RavenCoin on the FPGA. If you can start doing some kind of sharing of resources there, to where on the more complex processes, you don't need to have all 16 algorithms on the chip. You could have 3 of those, and when it's doing that in series, it can handle that overhead. So then you'd have this huge peak of completion when it's going through the algorithm. Those are kind of cool things, but you need somebody to code that for you, right? So that's the only thing that's kind of the long pull on FPGAs. Like if I sat down and wanted to try to pick up that skill set, it's like, well, how long is that going to take me to become good at it? And is that makes sense for time usage right now? Do you think it's a good time to buy GPUs? GPUs right now are regular prices, and some of them you find a discount. So if you haven't bought GPUs and you're wanting to get into the space, start small. A 1080 Ti rig like this is pretty cheap. Or you can get into them pretty cheap right now, and you can get your feet wet of understanding the crypto market. And then if there's people that are divesting and they have to divest, you know, you're doing them a service by buying their machine when they need it sold. But I mean, it's obviously you're going to get it at a discount because the prices are a lot lower. But an hour and 45. Well, the only other thing I had was, let's shut this. I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to throw simple mining on it real quick because I just want to make sure it's running on simple mining. Let's switch this over, and then I'm going to probably shut it down for the night. The only other thing I was going to do is get these other rigs going, and I put it to sleep. And then what I'll end up having tomorrow night, we'll probably end up doing another live stream. I have tomorrow and Wednesday. When is the game night? We'll probably have the Red Devil up here so you guys can see the Red Devils running. I haven't tried those with Raven and a couple of the other currencies. And I think I have one more rig over here too. Let me get the screen switched. I don't know what those ones are. I think those are Strix 570s, two fan. So I have a rig over there that's needing some help. That's BBT Brett's, and I'm gonna fix that for him. Even at retail prices, it's a great time to buy steals on full rigs on Craigslist. Lots of phones start dumping rigs on the cheap. Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely do that. I mean, it's more of like if you wanted the origination of the warranty and all that for the cards if you're buying a brand new card. But, I mean, if you're doing it on the concepts that mining is very linear. You build a rig, you're going to have a sunk cost to that, and you're going to have the power that's associated to it. It all comes down to the difficulty of the network. If difficulties start to peel back, you're going to get more coins. In times of right now, when there's not a ton of people mining or people are turning off their rigs, you should see a reduction in the total overall, network size. But unfortunately, there's more hardware that was already on the print and the press that are coming out from an ASIC standpoint that had put them in the cooker essentially in December, and now we're plus 6-7 months out there, you're having a lot of stuff come out of that cooker and then getting sold, like the Z9s and some of the Ethereum mining rigs coming out. So you're not seeing a decrease in hash right now. And like a lot of people moving things over, you'll see drops in certain coins because people are moving to the more profitable ones right now in the tight squeeze. So that's why Ethereum Classic's up like 65% on its network. Miss BBT, what are you doing? Oh. Durgadin. Nothing. Durgadin came in. Just telling him, hey. Hi. I didn't miss anybody from subscribing and everything, right? I got everybody. Yep. Made it back to the mine. Nice, buddy. So let's go. I'm going to plug in somewhere. I have. Here we go. We're going to unplug those. And then fire the rig back up. Is that a scratch? Oh no, that's the label 1, number 1. Oh, I turned this off here. Record time. Yeah. Oh, record time. Nice. Well, you can see how I got them plugged in right now. What's also going on? You got 50 people in here. We were up to 70 there for a little bit. It's quite a bit. Oh, I might have to set. I don't think I configured this. Hold on real quick. I go in and just pick a coin. I just did Ethereum in there. Should come up. Yeah, thanks to the power. That camera had powerful zoom. Yeah, that was the AX100. I think I was using the AX100 on that one. Yeah, that's a great camera, actually. That's hold on real quick. That's this boy right here. Right there. That's the AX100 from Sony. It's got the lens protector on there. It's a huge lens on it. I'm Zeiss glass. And Yeah, it has a crazy zoom. Yeah, 18 times zoom, 18 times optical. It's actually pretty good. Not digital. We're at 160 right now. I need to go in there and set the settings up for it. They stayed up an extra 20 minutes and the stratosphere let you down. Yeah, it was on that kind of sucked. The stratosphere, like where we were positioned, there was a building right there, and then they had fireworks like behind the building. So it was kind of, it was actually horrible. It was like 5 minutes. It was like the worst show ever. Like our local shows here are a lot longer. Yeah, so 830 watts. So I can get this down to about 560, 570 watts if I just drop the power on it and get it to about 13 mega hash. But that's it running simple mining. Saw the box is doing fine. Let's see who's on. Send you guys over to somebody. I'm gonna wrap this up in 2 hours. I'm just gonna upload this as it is to YouTube. People that complain about long videos can just deal with it. I think there's some good content in it. So